Hey fam, we're back with another banger. What if Naruto became an immortal magician? So before we start, if you are craving adult mature content, join my Patreon now, link are in the description box. Alright, enough talk, let's fire it up. What a lovely night, was the thought going through the head of a man as he gazed across the night sky in London City. What peace. I wish it will stay like this forever. Unfortunately, you know it will not, young Magus. An old voice spoke from behind as the man looking towards the city moved his head to see who had disturbed him. Why are you here? The man asked questioningly, mildly surprised by the other man's appearance. I think you why I am here. News has already spread about the upcoming war. That it has, that has. The man said before gazing towards the city. But I happen to guess that you know of my part in this war. He said it more as a statement. Yup, you know that I detest war. Yes, especially a war that has had absolutely no victor for the past few hundred years. So in summary, you want me to participate in the heavens feel. Good heavens, what made you think I would ask such a thing? The first man gave the second one a deadpan stare. Why else would you seek me out, you old vampire? Point. So, are you going to participate, Naruto? The first man, Naruto, sighed. It's not like I have a choice, old man. The blonde-haired man, Naruto, was tall, about 6 feet in height, give or take a few inches. His spiky blonde hair had 2 bangs that framed his face. And the back was shoulder length. He was well built, but not overly so, more like a martial artist or runner's build, and he had piercing cerulean blue eyes that danced lively, but had a jaded look in them. As if he had seen far too much in his many years of existence. His most noticeable features, though, were 3 whisker marks adorning both of his tanned cheeks. It could be noted that he was quite handsome, almost edging into the pretty boy category. Compounding this image, he was currently sitting, feet draped over the edge of what he was on, dressed in a completely black suit. The other man, Zelrech, or more specifically, Kisher Zelrech Schweinerd, was a graying old man, with gray hair, gray beard, etc. He possessed remarkable crimson eyes, and was also dressed in black clothing of a different fashion. He was a vampire, or more specifically, a dead apostle ancestor, and master of the second true magic, kaleidoscope. Naruto took off the glove and exposed a glowing, stylized sword-like mark on his left hand. This thing appeared about a week ago. Zelrech whistled. Ah, so the rumors are true. Naruto scoffed as he looked back towards the vampire. Yes, they must be. I've seen your bats hanging around me 24/7. I was merely watching over a fellow practitioner from those who would serve to harm him. You mean watching me for blackmail material for later? Zelrech raised his hands. Got me there. Mind you though, even though I know the rules and history of the war, this little detail still eludes me. He then rolled up his sleeve to reveal to Zelrech something that even surprised him in his many years of living. A second glowing mark, taking the form of 4 different angelic wings on his forearm. Now this is interesting. The old man smiled in excitement. It seems as though the Grail knows you are special as well, O sage of the forest. Sigh, give me a good reason to fight in the heavens feel. Naruto said as he rolled his sleeve down and picked himself up. Well, Zelrech sighed. The prize for winning is a wish. A wish? Surely you must be joking. No, I am not. You get an actual wish. As in, your deepest desires will be granted. Naruto went silent. A wish, huh? So, these wars have all been over a mythical wish-granting device. Yeah, and it can. Yes, it can actualize miracles and accomplish the impossible. Zelrech smirked. So, now you're actually considering it. No, Naruto said with a sad smile. I have no regrets about my life, you know. I lived it to the fullest, and will keep living it until the day I die, that is if I die. After everything you've experienced, walking down a path of bloodshed. Don't you want to change that? Make it so that all of those losses never happened. The younger man shook his head. If I rewrote the past like that, I would be spitting on the corpses of all of my friends and loved ones. I mourn and remember them, but I won't regret the decisions that I made, ever. I don't have a wish that I would like to see made true. You have been chosen already though. The Grail wouldn't choose you, unless there was something that you wanted, some inner desire. Naruto looked eyes onto his old friend. I am well aware. Quote, And you do know that the Grail is capable of bringing back the dead, don't you? Naruto raised his voice. Zelrech, don't tempt me. Please, I beg you. The old magician complied. Can I not convince you then? Long minutes of silence, in which both men regarded each other silently, one with piercing cerulean eyes, the other with crimson. Eventually, the younger blonde spoke. We both know that I have already decided what my course of action is to be, he sighed. I will participate then. In that case, Zelrech pulled out a case. May I come with you then, for the summoning? You may, Naruto said as a light appeared in his hand as he brought forth his magical object. A long white cane with a blue crystal th. At glows whenever he channeled his magic. Zelrech looked out towards the city. By the way, why did you chose to come here of all places? It soothes me, the blonde said as he struck his cane on the ground as a light enveloped them both. When it had passed, they were gone, leaving the tower barren as it chimed for the city to hear. The blonde-haired man hummed quietly to himself as he continued ying out the summoning circle in the middle of his modest apartment. It had been a while since he had lived strictly for himself. It seemed as if his relatively normal, for him, lifestyle was about to change, radically at that. Although, he mused, I cannot be classified as strictly human now. Can I? Because of that little factor. Thank you once again, Master. Naruto Uzumaki admitted that he was a flawed existence. He watched his best friend killed right in front of him. He lost all capacity to care for other beings after his friend died. No, his love, and the person known as Naruto Uzumaki. After realizing that he was a competitor in the Fourth Fuyuki Grail War, laughed at the very concept. A war that would grant the winner one wish. One single wish. What a selfish idea. He was already dead the minute she died. A dead man had no business living when others suffered. And dead men had no right in wishing for things, not when there were other people out there. And yet, he found himself a master in this war for a selfish desire. However, Naruto shook his head clear of the depressing thoughts. He cleared his throat and stood up. It's almost time then. At midnight that's when my powers will be at their peak. Are you sure that this circle will be enough though? The old vampire spoke up from his corner. I thought that the circle had to be made of blood. It doesn't need to be. The magic circle just acts as a means for the spirit to enter this world, a door if you may. My mana and the Grail will do the rest. He was currently standing in the middle of a spacious room in a penthouse apartment suite, which had a circle imprinted on the middle of the floor. He then went to his couch and started rummaging in a bag he had left there, looking for something. I assume at you already have a catalyst for the spirits then. His answer came when the blonde magus pulled out the object he was looking for. A flag. The pole of it was thin but looked like it was in perfect condition despite how old it seemed. The flag itself was white in color with a golden border and crown-like design in the center and was tied to the pole with a golden rope. Zelrech looked at the flag in interest. This will act as a catalyst for one of the spirits that I will summon. If what my information says is right, then this is Luminosité Eternelle, God is here with me. Ah, the flag of Joan of Arc. Impressive. But what about the other spirit? I still haven't found the other catalyst yet. I was about to search for it when you arrived. In that case, Zelrech pulled out a box. A gift, I'm sure that you will appreciate it. I assure you I don't need your. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the old vampire open the box. In it was a sheath for a sword. More specifically, a European broadsword. It was a luxurious piece of equipment made of gold and decorated with blue enamel that seemed more like a treasure to show dignity and nobility, like a crown or staff, than a weapon. It was inscribed with fairy letters on its center to signify that it was not, in fact, a work of mankind, but something more. It was something that Naruto never thought he would set eyes upon again, Avalon. The ever-distant utopia. It was just as he remembered it, one of the most beautiful things that he had seen. Naruto walked over to the old man. Zelrech, where did you get this? Think of it as a gift from the Einsburns. After they had excavated it from Cornwall they had it shipped to their castle immediately. Zelrech explained as he handed the sheath over. It would be entertaining to see the boy's reaction to see the spirit it would summon. Even if it was a pain in the ass to actually steal the sheath. Zelrech is quite possibly the biggest troll in the Nasuverse though. Thank you, Zelrech. The magus responded after some silence. This means a lot to me. The blonde then looked at the clock on his wall and sighed. Might as well get the ritual started. It was 11:59 p.m. 1 month before the Fourth Fuyuki Grail War. An apartment in Tokyo, Japan. The residence of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed magus, apprentice to wizard Merlin. He stood before the circle waiting when he noticed the clock tick over to 12. The blonde-haired magus began the incantation. That circle began glowing. Theatrics were not needed in a summoning. The only things required was an artifact. To better the chances of choosing a select servant, and a circle with a magus. The Grail did the actual summoning. Silver and iron to the origin. Gem and the Archduke of Contracts to the cornerstone. The ancestor is my great master Merlin. The glowing increased, and the blonde magus could feel the mana surging through his circuits like blood through veins. The alighted wind becomes a wall. The gates in the 4 directions close, coming from the crown, the 3-forked road that leads to the kingdom circulate. More mana flowed, a buzz of power emerged, grating upon sensitive ears. Avalon and Luminosité Eternelle began glowing, as if they could sense the return of their respective masters. Shut, fill. Shut, fill. Shut, fill. Shut, fill. Shut, fill. Was it worth it? Was it worth conducting this ritual and beginning another conflict? Repeat every 5 times. Simply, shatter once filled. It probably wasn't. Naruto himself had no clue why he would even want a wish. He had already lived his life, and he never regretted the painful path he took. I announce. Yourself is under me, my fate, doom, is in your sword. In accordance with the resort of the Holy Grail. If you abide by this feeling, this reason, then answer. So, if the blonde had one wish that could be spoken in coherent words. Here is my oath. I am the one who becomes all the good of the world of the dead. I am the one who lays out all the evil of the world of the dead. Naruto was tired of war, oh so tired. He'd participate in this one conflict after the other, if only to protect those innocent lives that were endangered by this conflict. Whoever devised this entire system should be kicked in the balls for making it take place in a populated city. In the corner Kisher Zelrech Schweinerg shivered. Along with another, Meituzuken. The other reason. Some deeper, darker, desire that conflicted with every single one of his ideals. What is my heart's true desire then? What is my desire? You. 7 heavens clad in 3 words of power, arrive from the ring of deterrence, O keeper of the balance. And with a bright light, a blinding light. The world disappeared in a flash of white, a burst of energy. And when all had settled, smoke billowed from the summoning circle, and the silhouettes of 2 slim figures was discernible. Then they spoke. I ask of you, are you my master? 3 weeks before the start of the 4th heavens feel. On what could be called a night of fate. All stories begin at a single point, at a beginning. And so, the story begins, a tale of masters, of knights and heroes. A grand tale, a sad tale, one that would have ended in tragedy, but instead will take a different path. Whether for better or worse is to be determined. 2 weeks ago, I ask of you, are you my master? Yes, I am your master. Arturia, a handsome spiky-haired blonde said as he looked towards a blonde girl in a blue skirt and white shirt that was standing before him in shining silver armor. Naruto. Is that really you? Was the shocked reply of the girl. It is I Arturia, or should I call you Saber now? The blonde man asked as he walked towards his old friend. So, you are supposed to be our master during this Holy Grail war. The question came from another girl that was standing beside Saber. She too had blonde hair and spoke with a French accent, shish. He wore a black dress with armor and had some aspects like Saber. The main difference between her and the blonde beside her was sex appeal. He did not want to say who had more in his opinion. I am, and you must be Jeanne d'Arc. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Naruto bowed towards the female spirit. Please do not bow to me master, and for the duration of the war you can call me ruler. Ruler. I haven't heard of that type of servant before. They all heard Zelrech chuckling in the corner and turned their attention towards him. Ruler is a non-standard servant class, I should know. A ruler is brought forth for the purpose of presiding over Holy Grail wars. The Grail in Fuyuki utilizes its own logic to sense when actions are encroaching upon its authority, and regardless of OT. Per mediators like those from the church, it brings forth ruler to protect the concept of the Holy Grail war itself. I see. Naruto said as he looked towards ruler. Also master, one of the critter. A need to be summon a ruler class servant is that you possess no desire for the Holy Grail. I assume that you know this. Well, I do not know what exactly I want if I even do win the Grail. Naruto said. And by the looks of it the Grail has already granted one wish that I had, he thought as he glanced towards Saber for a moment. Okay, some things to get out of the way. First, don't call me master in public or when we are alone. Naruto will do. You can call me master when we are battling other masters as they will have no idea who I am. Second, you will not act like servants around me, I They known Arturia since we were little and I would like to know you better as well, Jean. Both servants looked at each other as if they were having a talk of their own before nodded towards the whiskered blonde. Good. Naruto smiled gently at his servants, before turning and walking into the kitchen. Now, who wants something to eat? You both must be starving. Saber, are you alright? Yes. I was just thinking about what he might be cooking. Let's go and see. As the two heroic spirits left the room, Zelrech looked at where the new master-servant team was and chuckled. Yes, this is quite entertaining. Present. Naruto, we're arriving. The blue-eyed Magus felt a small hand rest gently on his shoulder before returning to its former position. Naruto yawned and stretched, before rubbing the sleepiness out of his eyes, all the while cursing under his breath about how he would destroy that evil depraved annoying light, and after waking up fully, realizing he was in an airplane seat and said light was from the nearby window. Naruto, you're making a scene. Saber sighed, clearly put out by the antics of her master. Not. A small smile played its way across Saber's lips. Yes you are. No. Both of you are making a scene. The well-dressed Magus turned to see his fellow passengers stare at him curiously. He grinned his famous foxy grin. Whoops. It was a game that they played on occasion, to see who was more, in Naruto's words, mule-headed and stubborn, than the other. Naruto almost always lost though. He claimed that he couldn't deny such a cute-face victory, causing Arturia to blush and act embarrassed, and then promptly demand for him to cook her food in an attempt to cover up said blush and embarrassment. Speaking of food, no, Arturia, I'm not cooking anything for you tonight. We have to scout out the area first, remember. The Saber servant sighed and crossed her arms, clearly irritated by the entire situation. Jean. He smiled as he witnessed the actions of her fellow servant and master as they made their way off of the plane and into a car waiting for them, courtesy of Zelrech. Tomorrow then. Of course. Naruto appeared almost contemplative. You know, I thought that you two would be more off-put by the entire idea of manned flight. The Holy Grail gives me the relevant information that I need to function in modern society. Jean replied as she snuggled in her comfy seat as they drove off. Still though. He chuckled lightly. I was on the first aeroplane you know, I nearly had a damned heart attack when the turbulence first hit. The entire idea is not that unusual. Arturia said. Actually, it is. But we won't go into semantics here. His entire demeanor became serious, more professional. So we've arrived. Then. Close to Fuyuki City, then. Yes. Naruto sighed. And so, war is upon us once again. Another conflict in a cycle of endless conflicts. But, we will win, Naruto. After all, you do possess two servants after all. And you are one of the best masters that we could have had. As long as the innocent don't get hurt by the war. He turned away. No collateral damage. Of course, both servants said. As for your wish, You're still thinking about that wish, aren't you, Arturia? The blonde Magus continued. He sighed when he noticed that she didn't respond. So you are then. Just know that no matter the decision, I'll support you every step of the way. Saber folded her hands over her lap. And I thank you for that. Of course. We are friends, are we not? Yes. We are friends. The blonde master smiled. What about you then, Jean? You sure you don't have a wish? No, I have desire for anything in this world. The life I lived before was the saint I could have asked for and I wouldn't change any of that. Well, that's fine then. Here was our new base of operations, for the time being. It was a lush affair, walled off and containing a garden that was well tended. Walking through the garden, one could observe that there was a house there, a traditional Japanese home that was actually quite large, capable of housing a decent-sized family. Everything was well kept. Emma Yashiru's house. It took me forever to get these barriers up and running. Naruto griped. Bounded fields, at least 10 ceiling arrays. This place is a literal fortress now. Nothing gets in if I don't allow it to. He placed a palm on the iron gate, and an array of complex symbols and runes arranged in a circular fashion instantly began to glow, before dying out. The gate swung open. We're here then. 2 weeks after the first servant was summoned, Naruto Uzumaki and servants Saber and Ruler arrived in Fuyuki City. I must admit, these last few weeks have been relaxing, Arturia admitted reluctantly. The blue-eyed blonde sweat dropped. Most of that, relaxing, was us fighting dead apostles and psychopath magi. It had its highlights though. The servant replied calmly. Even you must admit that. Naruto cracked a grin at that. True. For starters, you aren't acting like a complete ass the way you did anymore. I never did. Saber sulked. A heroic spirit such as myself could never act with such improper decorum. Naruto stared at his servant with a slight twitch in his eyebrow. And I don't believe that I am delusional. He slid open the door, and paused when he beheld the contents of the room. Zelrech. He muttered flatly. What the hell are you doing here? Zelrech twitched with annoyance from where he was sitting. Can't a man just sit in peace? He picked up a cup of tea that was steaming next to him, and took a sip from it. In my house, no. And I know damn well that you don't make random house calls all that often. He leveled a peaceful gaze onto his friend. May I inquire as to why exactly you are here? The dead apostle ancestor shrugged. I need to talk. About. He waved a hand in dismissal. Not to you. To your servants. Now this got some confusion from Naruto and his servants, who was acquainted with the old vampire after they had been summoned. Sadly, they still could not believe that someone as powerful as Kisher Zelrech Schweinerd could be as immature as a 5-year-old at times. Then again, one of the strongest people that they knew, their master Naruto, had his fair share of immature moments. Of course, someone able to control the forces of nature was not one to be trifled with. Scale level. Naruto inquired. Zelrech made a nonchalant noise. 5 to 7-ish. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That's actually quite serious there. He sighed. Do I have to be present for this entire debacle? It would be better if you did not. The blonde sighed. Well, I do have to get some ingredients for cooking. I'll be leaving now. Naruto. Will you be alright on your own? The suited blonde nodded. I'll be perfectly fine. The only other servant that has been summoned so far is Assassin. And I am confident that I can handle him if needed. Then go buy ingredients to cook delicious food with. Zelrech waved cheekily. Naruto sighed and strolled out of the house, leaving behind an old man and 2 stone-faced spirits. Once he had left, Zelrech spoke. I assume that you wish to know what I want to say to you both. That would be a reasonable assumption, yes. Very well then. The master of the second magic sighed. It's about the brat. Naruto. Zelrech smiled, a toothy leer. Yes, the brat and me have been friends for years, so I know how he thinks and acts. I can onl. Why imagine what he does with you TIW ladies when you're all alone with him? I wonder. Quote. Saber blushed slightly and looked away while Jean blushed more, looked down and fiddled with her dress. Quote. What we call our master and do with our master is none of your business, even if you are our master's teacher. Is there a point behind this drivel? Actually, yes. Zelrech lost his cheery demeanor. It's more of a request, really. Please don't hurt him, at least, not without good cause. Quote. What are you saying? As you know, Naruto has been alive for a long time, a very long time. And in at time he has seen many things that would drive a normal person insane, yet he's as calm as can be. As you know, Saber, he's fiercely protective of those he considers precious to him, to the point of being suicidal. That boy places no value in his own life. Zelrech's eyes softened a little. I know for a fact that he views both of you as friends. Saber sighed a little and closed her eyes. He's always being like that. Even when knows my status as a knight, he refused to treat me as anything but human. I can safely say that he is a very good friend and partner on the field of battle. Her lips twitched upwards. He is a respectable individual overall, even if his methods in combat are questionable. He has not lied to me, nor ignored me, in fact, he has done his best to interact with me. I may have known him a little while, but he feels like someone you can trust, someone you can rely on, someone you can talk to as an equal. But, his eyes, they seem as though he's seen a lifetime of grief and happiness. And he still has to live it. And I want to be there to help him. Jean said, grasping her hands, like she was praying. Naruto has that effect. He changes people, doesn't he? He has all the charisma of a king, with none of the mindset. Saber raised an eyebrow. In battle, when he gets serious, he is terrifying. In normal life, it is strange how such a carefree being can exist. After going through so much, Zelrech was actually serious, for once. I'm worried about him. Lately, he seems more driven, more broken, if you will. As you know, he's been accepting the harder contracts. The ones that are dangerous and sickening. Ruler sighed. The one flaw that he has, is that he holds no value in his own life. For such a pure soul to believe that he is that worthless is absolutely confounding. Just as you believed that you were not worthy, Zelrech chuckled. More silence. No talking, merely the chattering of men and women on the streets and the roaring that was that of a city. Of modern civilization. Take care of him, you too. I would hate to lose a source of amusement, and one of the few people that can put up with me. But most importantly, please save him from himself. He hasn't been the same since you died. Arturia, you know that we will. We would do anything for him. Ruler said, a sound of utter content and relaxation. As Zelrech got up and walked out the door. He still hasn't changed, even after all these years. Saber muttered, smiling a nostalgic, tragic and beautiful smile. And we will make sure that he doesn't change, even now. Ruler said as she stood up and held her hand to Saber. Don't you agree? Yes. Saber said as she took the helping hand and stood up. For Naruto. Naruto sighed. It begins, then. Arturia. He threw a manila file onto the small table, where master and servant were situated. Shall we prepare for war again? King of Knights. Maid of Orleans. The Saber servant sighed. You know that I dislike all of this planning. Naruto raised an eyebrow. If you recall, most of the victories in battles, past and present, were due to superior planning. He is right, you know. Jean said. Have you determined the identities of all of the masters, then? As of 3 hours ago, I was able to uncover our opponents and who we will be fighting, thanks to my trusty network of spies. He smirked. And you say that intel is overrated. Naruto. The data. The shorter blonde stated bluntly, in no mood for banter. Battle was a serious business. Ah, yes. He mentally prepared himself. Arturia rolled her eyes as her old friend prepared to shift into lecture mode. He really was an outspoken individual. Now, as we all know, there are 7 masters in each Grail War, for 7 classes. 3 of which come from the 3 founding families, the Tasaka, Meitu, and Ainsburn. The Magus Association sends 1 representative, and the rest of the masters are determined by the Grail. From what my spies have told me. This lineup of masters should prove to be fairly intimidating. He opened the folder, and spread 5 pictures onto the table. These are the ones chosen by the Grail to compete in this war. From what I can determine. The Tasaka family head, Tokiomi Tasaka, is a master. From the Ainsburns, they have contracted an individual known as Kuritsugu Emiya. The Magus Association has sent Kanath Archibald El Meloy. Naruto frowned. He's an asshole. Idiots aside, Archibald's student, Waver Velvet, has actually managed to steal his teacher's catalyst and is a competitor. And finally, a priest from the burial agency, amazingly enough. His name is Kirei Kotomine. The Meitu master is Kariya Meitu. It was tricky, but I've been able to get a lot of information on him and his family. The spiky-haired blonde took a few breaths. His servant folded her hands in her laps and winced. Most of this is new. I have never even heard of 3 of these names until today. Surprised. Magi are normally secretive and irritating, just like back in the old days. As good as my informants are, they are not omnipotent. Fair enough. How would you rate their levels of danger? Jean asked. Naruto hummed. In deep contemplation. The El Meloy, I can defeat with ease. Velvet is a young magus, inexperienced. Tasaka is a skilled magus, however, he is predictable, too set in his ways. Really. What it comes down to. Kotomine and Emiya. Personally, I think that Emiya is quite possibly the most dangerous master in this entire war. Saber raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Barring myself, yes. He maintained a completely serious expression, proving that he wasn't kidding when he claimed that Kuritsugu was deadly. The reason for this is because Emiya has a reputation. Naruto's face was hard. Stony-faced wasn't a good enough description to describe his expression. They being the Magus Association, call him the Magus Killer. Reputation: Emiya Kuritsugu. Last scion of the Emiya family. Freelance assassin, well known for hunting dead apostles and sealing designates. Notable in the fact that he does not view himself as a Magus, and he is damn good at his job. However, the reason why I view him as dangerous is because he is not afraid to keep this war a secret from the public that much. He scowled. That man is what I could have become. He will do anything to kill his target, anything for the sake of the mission. This man, he had a habit of killing innocents and those only vaguely related to his targets in order to kill his target in the first place. I am fairly certain that there has not been a single cowardly trick he has not used in the history of being a mercenary. If he deems a tactic would be enough to kill his opponent or lure them into the open, he would use it regardless of how many people would be caught in the crossfire. The trio, master and servants, sat in silence. Kuritsugu is the most dangerous master. He has backing from the Einsburn. And so, he should be able to procure a catalyst that can summon a servant that is truly exceptional in nature. They were able to get a hold of Avalon First Arturia. Saber scowled at the thought of having someone like Kuritsugu as a master. He is an assassin, a well-trained and skilled one, and most importantly, he is not bound by the rules and regulations of Magi. And he most certainly does not possess the same mindset as one. I see. Saber replied slowly. Can you beat him? Naruto laughed. Of course, in a fair battle. But that man will not fight fair. But I should be able to. Even if the odds are against me. He grinned, a predatory and bloodthirsty grin. Besides, I am not just a normal Magus. I have had many lives over these past few centuries, a soldier, an assassin. I have seen the world at war twice, and conquered the world. Unless the conditions are truly unfavorable, none of the masters should truly be a threat. Jean nodded. Of course, masters, ordinary humans, should not be able to fight servants head-on. She stated. And if I may say, you are not an ordinary human, by any definition of the word. That's correct. We will win the war. That is our pact, our promise to one another. I am just saying, and reminding you. Do not underestimate the opponent. Never, ever underestimate the enemy. Remember when you sparred with me, Saber. Ruler voiced her own words. You are the clear exception to the norm, master. Besides, you were able to keep up with Saber and I when we spar against you. And you have years more experience in battle, but the servants, they'll be the biggest issue here, he said, crossing his arms. I do not know what catalyst El Meloy and Velvet have. I know that after Zelrech appropriated Avalon and I was able to get Luminosité Eternelle myself, the Einsburns have obtained a shard of wood. Huh, that's weird. The Meitu, I have no idea, and Tasaka was recorded as buying a fossilized snake skin. Saber ground her teeth. So, we have absolutely no idea what servants most of the masters have. At least we know the identities of the masters. Naruto muttered. My spies are only human, still fallible. No one is perfect. Didn't you tell me that back in the day? She huffed. Well then, are we to retire? Yeah, I'm feeling sleepy. He sighed. I'll get on unpacking all of our stuff. And we'll scout around the city tomorrow in teams of 2. He got up. Night Arturia, good night Jean. Good night, Naruto. Both servants said before heading off to bed. Naruto's dream. He opened his eyes and found himself on a hill of swords, of screaming and death, of knights and blood, of swords flashing through the battlefield. And he gazed towards a king on that hill of swords. That king was fighting her child, her son. The king was struggling, for her sheath had been stolen. The other Red Knight, a terrible figure, was screaming in abject fury. The Red Nig. HT wanted to know why he wasn't allowed to be the heir, why he wasn't worthy, why he couldn't be king. The King of Knights remained stoic, and spoke. I did not despise you. I did not give you the throne for one reason. You lack the capacity of a king. And red clashed with blue, until the blue figure impaled the red one on her spear. The bloody knight's helmet clattered to the ground, revealing a face that was identical to that of the king's. There. The Red Knight tried to touch the perfect king with his hands at least once, but that wish was not to be granted. He expired rapidly and fell to the dirt, though not before one final cruelty was dealt to that king of knights. A sword rose, a sword fell, and a king was cut down, fatally wounded by the unwilling hand of the unknown son. It was this scene that Naruto dreamt of. No, not a dream, a memory. A memory that haunted his sleep for centuries, a vision that Naruto would never forget. The death of King Arthur. 2 days later. Master, I felt it. Naruto sighed, and stared at his hand, the one on which that stylized sword was etched. It is done then. The last of the heroic spirits have been summoned. He had felt it, Saber and Ruler had felt it too. Yesterday, multiple servants had been summoned. Today, one more. So it really begins. The war has started. Naruto murmured. It has. Shall we be going out again, Naruto? We shall. We will split up and seek out the location of the other masters. Very well then. Saber gave a bleary yawn from where she was sitting and stretched like some lazy feline, causing Naruto to snicker a little at how utterly adorable she was in the morning. Just like back then. Arturia, Naruto spoke up. What are you doing in my room anyway? Naruto, I require sustenance. Alright, but, now, sigh, coming right up. And so, Saber prepared herself to engage in that battle that was breakfast. A typical day in their lives, as they had grown accustomed to this daily routine. She sighed. And now it seems as if those halcyon days are over. At least I have not been resting on my laurels this entire time. The blonde servant felt regret, sadness that this brief respite of relative peace was gone now. But at the same time, relief, and excitement at the possibility of a battle. Relief that at long last, the wait was over, and the war could finally begin. And then immediately, shame that she would think such a thing, for while she was loath to admit it, the last few weeks had been some of the more happier in her life. However, her very nature as the servant Saber, as the king of knights Arturia, meant that she would choose duty over personal comfort. For her pride and honor demanded no less, for her upbringing demanded no less. Right now though, she would enjoy these last few moments. This brief respite before the war. I wonder, what will Naruto cook for breakfast? Naruto and Saber had just finished checking out the Meitu residence, only to find that there was no servant and no master at said household. What a waste of time. Naruto scowled. Where could Karya Meitu be, anyway? I haven't seen or heard of him since he summoned his servant. Naruto was dressed in one of his all-black suits, tailor-made for combat according to his very demanding specifications. He had cane sealed away into a ring on his right middle finger, and was currently fuming silently at having spent 3 hours just getting to the Meitu residence, only to have that effort spent in vain. Saber sighed. She was also dressed in a black suit, fitted to her form almost perfectly. As to how Naruto obtained her measurements, he did make her dresses and armor back in the days as her friend and servant when she had been made king and still remembered all of her measurements to this day. Kind of weird if someone asked her, but it was still kind of sweet. How annoying, Naruto murmured. Well then, we might as well check out the Einsburn castle before calling it a day. Kaneth's hideout was so ridiculously easy to find that it is quite laughable, and I don't feel like traipsing to Waver's place of residence. Naruto blinked when he saw a white-haired woman walk by. Absently, he noted that she possessed crimson eyes and pale skin, and was wearing a white coat. He couldn't get a look at the woman's features though. Saber, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that that is an Einsburn homunculus. That is a homunculus, but I thought that Emiya Kuritsugu is the Einsburn master, I wonder. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the white-haired woman, who was walking away. There is something about her presence, some presence that signifies, not human, that is ominous and foreboding. He shook it off. She cannot be a master though. He sighed when he felt someone watching him. Saber, we are currently being observed, aren't we? Yes. 2 of them, on the roofs. Should I eliminate them? Naruto shook his head. No need for that. They don't seem to have any hostile intentions. However, I believe that we should head home now. Ruler and my other self are at the Tasaka residence. Now, We have already scouted the Einsburns castle yesterday. So another trip there would be redundant. If we continue, we would attract a little more attention than I am comfortable gathering as. Well, you do realize, and it will be dark by the time we arrive. Naruto gave his servant an odd look. Do you care what time of day it is? We are all the way on the other side of town. So, will we make it back for dinner? If we hurry, I think so. Then let us be on our way. Naruto groaned in utter annoyance, with some humor laced within the annoyance, and palmed his face with a hand. You are a glutton, Saber. You and ruler. A loud explosion filled the air as a white-masked assassin was impaled by a spear and a sword. Sitting in the branches of a tree and observing the Tasaka mansion was the blonde master and servant duo. With Naruto wearing his normal black suit and his companion wearing a female version unlike Saber had. Ruler blanched at the sight she saw. That's Archer. Naruto merely looked in appreciation. Most interesting. Apparently, Assassin's master had tried to infiltrate the mansion, probably to kill the master of Archer, Tokiomi Tasaka. The idiot had, stealthily, moved to the jewel maintaining the defenses. When the other servant had made his appearance, Archer was a tall and dignified young man with golden hair standing up like a blazing flame. He was handsome, with an elegant face. His eyes, crimson like blood, were visibly not those of a human, and they gave off a mysterious radiance that could make people wither. He had a perfect, golden proportioned body, described as emanating majesty. To compound and top this image, the servant was wearing gold armor, a full suit of it, that was making a very heavy first impression on our protagonists. Those were noble phantasms, Ruler muttered, clearly perturbed by the archer's easy disposal of assassin. Is that really an archer? Class. Naruto sighed. It seems as if Tokiomi has summoned a very powerful servant indeed, if he possesses numerous noble phantasms. Let me see if I can get a good look at his stats. He trailed off. Oh my. Golden Rule rank A, Divinity rank B, Charisma A+. And Independent Action rank A. Naruto sighed once more. My, this guy is a monster, isn't he? Multiple noble phantasms, of moderate quality too. The blonde magus noted, narrowing his eyes at the archer. Clearly a high-ranked servant. If he has that many. I think I have an idea of who he is. It was then that the golden servant decided to make his discontent known. Oi, mongrels in the tree. Show yourselves, lest you suffer the king's wrath. Naruto glanced glumly at Ruler before the pair clambered down from said tree. After all, neither wanted to be skewered by so many floating swords. Now, explain yourselves. What gave you the right to stare at the rightful king? Naruto placed a restraining hand onto his servant's shoulder, calming down the servant who was slightly nervous at their position, and mentally prepared himself to think of a way to get out of their current annoying situation. First things first, this archer seemed to be a very egotistical and arrogant person. Which meant buttering up. He had referred to himself as a king numerous times, so. My apologies, King of Heroes. The blue-eyed blonde replied smoothly. My companion and I were merely curious as to what could cause such a cacophony. Forgive our intrusion. The golden-armored man raised an elegant eyebrow. So, you recognize a true king at first glance. That redeems you to some degree, I suppose. And I thought that gods were arrogant. Geez. However, it does not explain your intrusion, and your cowardice puts you below my feet. Explain quickly, lest you find yourself with no limbs. Naruto released the hand that was on his servant's shoulder. Many apologies, King of Heroes. As I have stated before, we were merely curious as to what the cause of all of that noise was. Once we discovered it, we distanced ourselves from your battlefield so as not to impede on your slaughter of the mongrels. Forgive this man's cowardice, majestic king. He sunk into a low bow, and a quick glance at Ruler caused her to bow as well. The suited blonde was rather miffed at the idea of bowing to such an arrogant individual, but he was also quite fond of staying alive, and he really did not want to get into a fight at the moment. Silence. Until the golden archer laughed. Your skills with that silver tongue are quite good, mongrel. How amusing. Very well then, I shall let you and your companion live, if simply for the fact that you have entertained me. You had better be on your way through. The patience and forgiveness of the king is not limited. Many thanks, King of Heroes. And with a flash of yellow light, the pair vanished, leaving behind a bemused archer. How entertaining. Perhaps, there will be some form of amusement in this charade. Fate 0. A flash of gold, and 2 figures appeared within the household that Naruto had purchased. Naruto exhaled. That was close. We're quite lucky to be unscathed. He glanced at his companion. Are you okay, ruler? You looked a bit frightened there. Thank you for your concern, master. But it is not needed. Ruler said slowly, standing upright. His teleportation trick was still new for her. I was just a bit overwhelmed about the servant archer. He is most powerful. Are you sure you can fight someone like that? Naruto chuckled and patted his servant's head. No need to worry about that now, Jin. Given time we will find a weakness for that man, and I believe we found a big one tonight. I see. Now come on. I will start making dinner for my original and Arturia, you can help me. They will be hungry when they get back. Yes, master. Britain, England. It was a bloody battlefield. Bodies of both friend and enemy were laid out left and right. Arturia plunged her sword into another body and shook her head. Why must we shed blood? She turned her head to the source of the question and found her old friend sitting on a stone with his robe and cloak swaying in the breeze and his magical staff leaned against his shoulder. Made out of brown wood with a jewel fixed at the top. Arturia sighed as she took her sword out of the body below her and looked to the mage. I know you do not like this, Naruto. But we have tried everything we can. There was no other way. Naruto looked at his king before letting out a sigh. I know, forgive me for speaking out, my king. It is all right. And Arturia, the king of knights, looked at her fellow BL. OND and witnessed a blast of energy fly past her and tore into the skull of a soldier that had gone unnoticed. You missed one. She sighed as she saw one of his hands stretched out. He was always like this on the battlefield. Calm, collective, and aware. It was hard to imagine that the energetic, friendly, and overly prankly blonde she knew since childhood was sitting a few feet away. And with ace that seemed completely out of person for him. You have my thanks once again, Naruto. Do not thank me. It is my duty and honor to serve you, my king. The mage said as he stood up. I believe we should make our way back. The kingdom might be worried about their fearless warrior king not returning. I am not the only warrior on this field. Did you say something, your highness? No. Nothing at all. And with that, they left the bloodied battlefield. Saber looked at the moon as she thought back on that night, and she would remember it as the first time she watched her master and friend in combat. And it certainly wouldn't be the last time, either. Chapter 2, The First Night PT.1. Another patrol, another one. And Saber could certainly say that she was a little annoyed by this constant walking. Naruto, I must ask, what are we doing right now? To say exactly, what are we doing? Didn't you know? One of my fragments saw a master heading to the docks. And just now, I saw that Kaneth guy heading in that same direction. Saber and Ruler shuddered. Fission beings. They had both heard the blonde mention being able to literally split his own body into identical entirely independent duplicates of himself, but to see it actually being utilized was quite scary. Such a thing really shouldn't be possible in today's magical world. A normal magus couldn't replicate half of the things that Naruto could accomplish, although they did have the almost 1,500 years worth of knowledge he had. Then again, he wasn't normal by any definition of the word. For starters, normal magi didn't get to have the ability to utilize clones to stream information directly into one's brain. And normal magi didn't get to have a conceptual weapon that could heal one's aneurysms. The inevitable meltdown that occurs when too much information is downloaded into a brain that could only process so much, or a lingering regeneration factor that could do the same thing, albeit much more slowly. Of course, having your brain literally begin melting down from information overload was never a pleasant thing to happen. More on that later though. And so, we find our protagonists wandering towards the docks of Fuyuki City, only to pause when they heard the ringing of metal against metal. A battle then, Naruto mused. Very close too. Do you two think we should engage them, or observe? Both blonde servants paused. While they were mentally and physically prepared for battle, they were still skilled and wise leaders. No, we will most likely be interrupting a duel between servants. And I would not be the one to impede in an honorable duel. For now then, let us merely observe. Saber said. I agree, if only because we will be able to gather more information this way. Lur agreed as Naruto nodded his head in acceptance. Well then, to do that and not get spotted we'll need to observe from a distance. Naruto said as he placed a hand in front of him and summoned a teal orb. It's been a while since I've used this. To think that normal humans use these to see into the future. It's almost insulting. Naruto, what are you going to use that crystal ball for? Ruler questioned as neither she nor Saber knew what their master was going to do. Well, unlike what these orbs are used for nowadays, I will use it to see into the present. Meaning that this will act as a camera and observe the battle while we can just wait here, and not worry about being spotted by others. Naruto explained he seemed to summon another orb and let it float away. Okay then, let's see if I can get a signal. There. Naruto made the orb larger and the master and servants saw a large bridge with two people on it. There was a large man and a smaller one. The larger man was dressed in a red cloak and bronze armor with greaves and fringes that left his arms and thighs open. However, this armor and this cape, both were decorated in a manner that was befitting of some royalty, or a nobleman. He was tall, easily towering over 2 meters in height, with red hair and beard and a tanned complexion. It could be noted that he was extremely well muscled as well, giving the impression of being able to kill wild animals with his bare hands. The other man, not much more than a boy, was pretty much the exact opposite. Greenish-black hair that reached his shoulders, with greenish-black eyes and a slight frame. Dressed in formal clothes fitting for a magus. He basically looked like a small child compared to Naruto or his companion. It was painfully obvious that this was no ordinary pair. Oh ho! Master and servant. Naruto muttered under his breath. It's obvious that the taller man is a servant, but which one? Ruler asked. Not sure, his appearance though tells me he's not Lancer or Caster though. The body type is too bulky for the swift moves of a Lancer and he seems like the type of guy to rush into battle. How can you tell that? Just a guess. Naruto replied to Saber only for the spirit to sweat drop. Now then, let's watch this fight, he said as the orb seemed to flatten and grow into a large oval with an image coming through. The two figures had just finished another clash. Metal grinding against metal, armor against lance, sword against lance, and had just separated. And for the first time, the masters and servants watching were able to observe the combatants. One was obviously a lancer while the other was a swordsman. The one wielding lances, yes, there were two of them, was quite handsome, with features that were capable of enchanting any woman. And quite possibly a few men. He was dressed in a dark teal outfit, and his dual spears were wrapped in cloth, one crimson red and one a golden yellow. The servants raised an eyebrow as he saw the image of the man waver a bit. Naruto, is there something wrong with the connection? We can just see laser in this thing. There's nothing wrong with the orbs, they're reacting to anything to something that the man is producing. Like any charms or illusions he or his master is casting. Do you know what it might be? Judging from the pinkish haze around him I'd say it's most likely a charm to entice females. Mystic face then. That compelling face that attracts people. That is not natural. Saber murmured. Ma, don't worry Saber, because you and Ruler have high magic resistance. I'm sure that neither of you will succumb to that man's charm. While that is true, Lancer's master may have cast another spell on him. Ruler stated. That's a good assumption. Speaking of Lancer's master, I do not see him at all. You're right Saber. I wonder where he is. Most likely, hiding. My, that's too bad. It was when Naruto turned his attentions to the other figure that he paled and almost fell backwards in shock. He turned to note that Saber had actually taken a step back in utter surprise. Is that? Saber whispered out, looking more surprised than anything. Naruto narrowed his eyes. That's. The other figure was dressed in thick armor that covered its entire frame, silver and ornate, with red cloth mixed with said silver armor. It was holding a silver blade, again. Ornately decorated, the blade of a knight. However, Naruto narrowed his eyes. That armor. Saber. Yes. It's that person, no doubt. Saber sighed and placed a hand over her eyes. Such misfortune. Ruler looked at the two with a raised eyebrow. Master. Do you and Saber know who is that servant? Saber answered. That is Mordred, son of King Arthur. And my killer. Ruler looked at Saber with widened eyes before looking back to the fight. I see. To think that he would be summoned in this war as well. She, Ruler. Mordred, like Arturia, is a female. Naruto said as he looked at the image with saddened eyes. Mordred, you. It's begun. Saber interrupted Naruto's thoughts. Lancer's going to unleash it. You mean, Lancer's getting ready to unveil his noble phantasm. I must commend you. The Teal Knight muttered carefully. To be able to parry all of my attacks like you have been doing shows that you possess great skill. Enough, fool. Keep talking then, so that I may cut you down with my blade. Avenger sneered, condescension and malice clearly present in its voice. Another voice blared out, loud and commanding, seemingly from nowhere. Lancer, that is enough. You have had your fun, now end this battle quickly. You may use your noble phantasm. The servant of the lance nodded. Understood, my lord. The wrappings around his golden spear and red spear vanished. I shall be going for the kill now. Will you not tell me your class name, at the very least? The other Red Knight, the helmeted one, laughed, a shrill and ting noise that was more akin to someone dying. Very well then, I shall honor that request. My class is Avenger. This caused everyone in the surrounding area to flinch slightly, and Naruto to frown. Avenger. Lancer murmured softly. Who could have known? I had thought you a saber, or possibly a rider, but Avenger. Lancer, finish it off. The voice commanded. Of course, my lord. I shall be going for the throat now, Avenger. He tilted his head to the side. That helmet conceals your identity, does it not? Meaning that if I were to catch a glimpse of your face, I would be able to discern your identity. Avenger snorted. I sincerely doubt it, but you are welcome to try, regardless. The Teal Knight sighed, and began walking away from his other spear. Very well then. He struck out with his red spear, but found it blocked by Avenger's sword. TCH. Very well then. You only have one sword, Avenger. He then proceeded to impale Avenger with his other golden spear. Tried to, would be better terminology. At the last possible second, Avenger moved to the side, causing a horrendous screeching of metal on metal to emit from where the golden spear scraped along its armored flank. Good reflexes. Lancer noted, with grudging approval. That armor. Tricky. Stay still, and let me kill you. Avenger growled, both hands on its sword. Is that part of your noble phantasm, then? He switched hands and struck again, only to be parried by Avenger. TCH. Back and forth, forwards and backwards, the two knights fought, gaining advantages and quickly losing them shortly thereafter. Lancer had the advantage in that he possessed two weapons instead of a singular one, and he was noticeably quicker than Avenger. Avenger, however, was just a little slower. ND had the advantage in brute strength and its armor that continued deflecting glancing blows from both lances. Eventually, it happened. Avenger tried blocking a stab to the chest from the golden spear with its right arm, only to mistime the stab and end up with a spear through said limb. HNGH. Avenger. Irisville cried out. She had been standing nearby and observing the battle for quite some time now. Woman. Heal me. I'm trying. I have. Your wound should be healed. It is healed. Naruto sighed. It's begun. Lancer's final attack. Ruler noted. He is incredibly skilled. With that wound that Avenger has suffered, the battle will be over shortly. I agree, it is a shame too. Saber sighed. Era. Naruto said, gaining the heroic spirit's attention. It seems like the ones on the bridge are up to something. Naruto noted as they all saw lightning strike the bridge and a chariot appear. So he is Rider then. Saber said as she noticed Rider and his master talk to each other before the boy was pulled into the chariot and flew off. I wonder what they are up to. Hopefully nothing idiotic. Naruto said with a chuckle as the thought of a servant doing something stupid now would be absurd. He would soon be proven wrong though. Avenger stared at its wound in slight annoyance. A spear that inflicts wounds that do not heal. Another spear, and a mole under your eye. I suppose I should feel honored then. To be facing you, first of the Knights of Fianna, Dearmood of the Radiant Face. It would be better, if you were to give me your name now that you know mine. The Bloody Knight laughed again. You will know my name in time, for now that I know this, I will be able to cut you down with impunity. You say this when you have lost the use of one arm. Avenger radiate. An air of smugness and promised violence and retribution, even if its face were not visible. I have suffered worse, it is of no consequence. However, before they could re-engage, a clap of thunder sounded across the landscape. And a large chariot dropped between them with a rather tall muscular man at the helm. Irisviel was dumbstruck. A chariot. The chariot was surrounded by lightning, drawn by 2 bulls. And at its helm was a muscular man. It was positioned between lances, and Avenger's sword. Both of you, lay down your arms, for a true king comes. The servant surveyed Lancer and Avenger, noted their surprise and shock at his arrival, and nodded affirmatively. I am Alexander, King of Conquerors. I have received the designation of Rider in this Holy Grail War. That was when everyone really became gobsmacked. In the War of the Holy Grail, no servant would want to declare his identity, as it could be a key component of any and all battle plans. Saber and Rule were speechless at the servant's audacity and, in Saber's opinion, foolishness. Naruto just looked at the man with a blank face. I like this guy. I don't know why, but I do. Master, what a fool, to reveal his name so easily. Saber murmured. Maybe he was just too excited by the battle, Ruler reasoned, but she didn't seem sure. You think? Naruto whispered. I will not say anything on the matter. So cold, Naruto said with a fake shudder. I remember when you, accidentally, did the same thing with a certain knight in Camelot. When we were supposed to be scouting out potential knights for the round table. That was inadvertent. It was unintentional. A blunder. The blonde English servant cried out. It was a slip of the tongue, and nothing more. Someone is in denial. Ruler teased. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Saber replied with a slight blush on her face, as she turned her nose to the air, acting the very part of the indifferent monarch. If you insist, let's watch the fight then. What are you doing, you dumbass? Waver cried out, earning yet another flick to the forehead. Seeing your battle, fate has brought us together to fight for the Grail. But first, there is something I must ask. How about yielding the Grail to me and joining my army? Alexander said with a smile. I will treat you both as my friends. And we shall share in the joy of world conquest together. Lancer blinked, then glared at the burly servant. You would dare interrupt my battle for something as stupid as that? My loyalty lies with my lord. Not with you, Ryder. Avenger grunted, seemingly annoyed. What a clown. I have no interest in your petty dreams of world conquest. Alexander sighed. Negotiations have failed once again. Irisviel blinked in amazement. Negotiation? You came in and essentially demanded that they swear loyalty to you. Exactly. It was planning. A brief pause. That's not planning. Lancer, Avenger, Irisviel. And Waver yelled at him. Yes it is. The same voice that ordered Lancer spoke up. So, you were the one that stole my catalyst, Waver Velvet. Irisviel widened her eyes. That is, I'm amazed, Waver Velvet. To think that you would have the audacity to steal my holy relic. And have the boldness to join the heavens feel. The concealed voice of Lancer's master spoke. I actually wanted my poor beloved student to be happy. Waver, someone as mediocre as you only deserves to possess the calm and stable life of commoners. Therefore, it falls to me, as your teacher, to school you privately. The silky, oily voice called out. I'll have to teach you about the pain and fear that is involved in this most sacred of rituals. Waver was terrified. There were no other words around that. He was scared to death of his former teacher, Kenneth Archibald L. Meloy. Until Ryder spoke. So, you were the one that was supposed to be my master. Alexander rumbled. How distasteful. You could never be my master. Only one who has the bravery to ride out with me onto the battlefield has that right. Not one who would be so cowardly as to skulk in the shadows. Silence. Only the anger of an arrogant noble could be felt in the black, seething with absolute rage at the impudence of Alexander. You dare, or all servants this impudent towards their betters. The red-clad servant ignored him. On that note, oi, all of you that are hiding yourselves. Show yourself immediately. Or are you too cowardly to do so? I, Alexander, the King of Conquerors, would have you show your faces. Ryder. Lancer said seriously. Who on earth are you talking to? You didn't think that your entire battle went unnoticed, didn't you? I'm sure that other servants have been observing this gathering. Now, come on out. Naruto blinked as he looked at the Ryder servant before looking over his shoulder. So, what do you two think? Should we accept his invitation? That is not an invitation, master. And I think that it would not be wise at this moment. Saber said as she and Ruler snapped out of their shocked state. Come on Tilda, this would be the perfect time to introduce ourselves. What do you think, Ruler? I think that we should go. Ruler said. It would be a good opportunity to gauge the other servants' power up close. All right then, let's go. Master, wait, look. And with that statement, golden dust coalesced on top of a lamppost, forming into that golden king that had caused such an uproar on the first night of the war. Waver was stunned. Isn't that's the servant that killed Assassin on the first night of the war. Kaneth finished. Everyone on the dock stared at the golden armored figure, who was the epitome of king. This could not be a caster. So, by process of elimination, seeing as Saber was not the one being referred to by Alexander, and he was clearly not under mad enhancement. Archer. Waver murmured softly. The last of those 3 knight classes. Archer. The servant of the bow. The golden servant sneered. I did not expect a fool to appear before me and call themselves king, when there is clearly only one king. Me. If you're truly a king, then why not name yourself? No true king should be troubled by giving his name. Alexander asked of the man standing atop the post. So you would question me, pretender? The light beneath his feet went out as he broke it by stomping his foot. Me, the king. At least there was a mongrel that was able to discover my true name on first glance. It was the only reason I gave him a chance to live. For the rest of you, if even in the presence of my glory you cannot discern my identity, your blindness will seal your doom. From behind him a golden glow appeared and 2 weapons appears out of it. Are those noble phantasms? Waver said, clearly shocked. Those are noble phantasms. Foolish mongrels. Now then, prepare to face the wrath of a king. However, he was cut off by a swirl of darkness appearing, a mar in the landscape. A swirl of pure darkness had appeared, a black flame, that burned furiously before dissipating, revealing a black figure, in what could be a knight, but could also not be a knight, shrouded in black, cloaked in darkness. Truly, skulking in the shadows. Avenger turned its helmed head in the Black Knight's direction. Ho, is that Berserker then? Lancer laughed nervously. Oi, Ryder, do you plan on inviting him? Ryder grunted. He doesn't seem the thinking type. Boy, how strong is he? Waver looked at the Black Knight and recoiled slightly. I can't tell. It's as if his stats were being obscured by some black cloud. He is obviously strong though. All eyes went to the source of the newly heard voice. In the air, standing on a round glass platform, were 3 figures, all of them clad in black suits, blonde hair, and radiating an aura around them that could only be described as deadly. Once gained silence until the only male of the trio broke into a grin. Yo, sorry we're late. I got lost on the road of life. Absolute silence. Everybody was staring at the whiskered blonde in sheer amazement. Was he suicidal, or something? Waver, Lancer and Kaneth were appalled. Irisviel was surprised. Alexander was stroking his beard while grinning. Avenger was suitably surprised and shocked, both by the spiky blonde and his companions. And Archer. One could see a vein pulsing in his head. He was clearly annoyed. Well, pretty much anything could set off Gilgamesh's temper. Hell, even looking at him warrants punishment. Yeah, Archer. He was pissed. Saber sighed. Master, you're making a scene. Again. Avenger turned to Saber, just now noticing her. How are they here? Mo, Saber, we're here, aren't we? Yes. But you're embarrassing yourself with your antics. Sorry, I'm late. Gag is not particularly amusing. Ruler said. Naruto blinked. Yes, it actually is. Even you have to admit it. Saber paused, and took that into consideration, causing a semi-pleased expression to form on her face, before that morphed back into her impassive one. It is rather humorous for those that are not on the opposing end. But that is not the point. The blue-eyed blonde sighed at that. Spoilsport. Ah, where are our manners? As you know, beside me are my servants Saber and Ruler. As for myself, my name is Naruto, Magus Supreme, and Almighty Sage of the Forest. At your service. Now this drew surprised reactions out of the magi that were present. This man just exclaimed that. Both girls next to him were his servants. What the hell? You're telling me you have 2 servants? Waver shouted accusingly, pointing a trembling finger at the suited blonde. Yeah, is there a problem? Fuck yes, there's a problem. Is there a point behind that statement? Lancer asked, clearly bored out of his mind. Maybe. A sword flashed through the air towards our protagonists. Naruto Ki. CKLY shrunk the platform under him and his servants as they gently fell to the ground, allowing the sword to pass above their heads before it exploded behind them. Fool. You dare keep a king waiting. Such impudence. Even if you were able to recognize me on sight, there is no forgiveness for this act of disrespect. The Golden King stated, still enraged by his fellow blonde's antics. Mongrels. Like you should just return to the dirt from whence you came. Of course, his rage had another target. And you mad dog. What do you think you're looking at? A spear and a sword appeared from a golden ripple in the air. Glorious and fine in manufacture and design. Returned to the earth. The spear and sword were fired, and another explosion that sent up a large plume of smoke. Oi, Ark. Her stiffened when he heard that annoying voice emanate from an alleyway. That's a bit rude, don't you think? Saber face-palmed and Ruler looked a little nervous. Master, I think you just made him madder. Sure to Ruler's word. More weapons appeared in midair behind Archer, surrounded by those golden ripples, weapons of the highest quality, of the highest make, of the highest manufacture. Weapons fit for a king. And there were so many too. Spears, swords, axes, knives, daggers, scythes, halberds. If it could be named, then Archer had it. All noble phantasms, or on the level of a noble phantasm. However, before he could fire the weapons, Archer paused. So the mad dog survives. Yes, Berserker had indeed survived the two weapons that Archer had fired. The Black Knight was walking out of a plume of smoke, wielding a tainted sword in one hand, spider-webbed with red veins and emitting an ominous cloud of darkness. Interesting, to have such skill in such a state. Ryder murmured. Yes, did you not see it then? He caught that sword and used it to destroy the spear. Avenger spoke, startling Waver, who had almost forgotten about the heavily armored servant. But that is not what interests me. You damn mongrels. I'll just kill you now. Before the weapons could fire, however, Archer came to a complete halt, and looked up, clearly annoyed. Retreat. You've got some nerve, Tokiomi. To order a king around like a mere peasant. The weapons all retracted, the ripples closed, the few weapons that remained on the ground dissolved into golden dust. Archer was near apoplectic about his forced retreat. But he could do nothing about it. A command seal had been used, and compliance was forced. TCH. Having to run like this. How distasteful. He turned to leave, though not without some parting words. Mongrels. See that you've culled your numbers by our next meeting, as only a true hero is worthy of looking upon me. And you too. You had better not try the patience of the king a third time. With a final sneer, that king dissolved into golden particles and vanished. The sudden quiet was broken by Ryder's low rumble. Boy. No, Naruto. Just who was that character? Naruto sighed. That just confirmed my suspicions. That haughty disposition, the vast treasury of weapons, that golden body. There has only been one hero that has owned all the world's treasures. Saber looked at her master in utter shock. You mean? Yes. That man is Gilgamesh, king of heroes. The whiskered blonde replied. And he is Tasaka's servant. Clearly, this war will prove to be quite interesting. He paused. And what will you all do now? Avenger stepped forwards, visibly trembling with anticipation. We meet again, father. Waver blanched. Wait, father. Saber is a woman. Why the hell are you referring to Saber with masculine pronouns? Waver shouted. She's clearly a girl. King Arthur is my father. It matters not what gender he is, it is the inexorable truth. Lancer. You wished to know my name. Did you? Not. Avenger. What are you doing? No, this is a matter of pride. For you see, my name is Mordred. That bastard child of the King of Knights, Arthur. Avenger rumbled angrily. Mordred. Saber murmured softly. She traced an invisible line on her chest, where she was cut down in battle. Remembering past wounds, father. I know that I remember mine. Avenger's hand went to her side. So this is the heroic spirit King Arthur. Irisville stated. That little girl is seriously King Arthur. Lancer asked incredulously. A brief lull in the talking. As various parties contemplated this idea. Naruto grinned, his feral smile in place. Well then, are we to fight, then? Because if that is to be the case, then we'll just have to give a good showing now, won't we? A roaring noise caused everyone's attention to turn to Berserker, who had picked up a lamppost and was charging at the servant and master pair. Avenger drew her sword and slowly advanced in the same direction that Berserker was currently charging. My, Naruto sighed. How rude. He summoned out his cane and stood still. Saber, if you would. His servant instantly materialized her silver armor and invisible weapon, and parried Berserker's blow. Not a problem, master. Saber grunted. Although Berserker is quite strong. Just hold on, I'll be ready shortly. Naruto turned to his other servant. Shall we both see to this servant, ruler? He got a nod in response. Oi, what are you doing? A master can't possibly take on a servant. Waver yelled. Saber shook her head at Waver's folly. Child, if there is one thing you should know about my master, it is this. Never, ever underestimate him. For it will be the last mistake in your short existence. Naruto finished and he gripped the top of his cane and pulled it, revealing a thin, double-sided blade hidden within. No more introductions. Now then. And with that, the KY-haired blonde dropped the hollow part of his cane, and launched himself at Berserker, causing the black servant to leap backwards in order to avoid the blonde mage. Saber, which do you want? The mad dog, or your other half? Saber twitched at his reference but kept a calm face. I will take Avenger. Ruler can take Berserker master. Alrighty then, he said before Berserkers tried to strike him. Only to be stopped by Ruler, who drew her rapier and glared at the Black Knight. You do know that it's rude to interrupt conversations, don't you? I don't think he care all that much, master. Ruler said as she then proceeded to lash out and kick Berserker's midsection, sending the mad servant flying. We'll be back soon, Saber. You can handle Mordred, can't you? Saber nodded. Go. I have some business to attend to. She glanced at her masters, eyes momentarily narrowing in concern. You will be all right, won't you? You know me, Saber. What do you think? I think you will be more than fine. She smirked. Very well then, I'll leave you to it. And the servant of the sword charged forward in a sudden burst of speed to do combat with the irregular servant that had been summoned. While her master and fellow servant braced themselves to receive the mad servant's charge. On that night, the first battle had commenced. The heroic spirits and their masters gathered at Fuyuki City will remember this day till the end of their lives. The Fourth Holy Grail War had truly begun. Thanks for watching.